Welcome to the Virtual CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping service-based businesses achieve success. Are you a business owner interested in learning how to scale your business? Has your business reached over $1 million in annual revenue? Then this podcast is for you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's podcast. Jody and I are very excited for today's guest because we've hung out with Traci Barrett quite a bit and been to quite a few conferences with her and have had a lot of good times and a lot of fun nights in the bar and had some good dinners with Traci. So this is going to be a fun podcast. She just released a book that she's going to tell us more about today. So before we get down that path, Traci, why don't you give us a little bit about your background and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. We've had quite a few fun nights at conferences. So excited to be reunited with you guys. And thanks for having me on. So yeah, we know each other through Navigate the Journey, which is the business consulting firm that Tom, my better half, and I own together. And we're just a firm that comes alongside entrepreneurial companies and teams and leaders. And as you know, we work with Summit a lot, and we really help people optimize their business and scale their companies, and as well have healthy teams and to just be better leaders. You know, I always talk a lot at these conferences about how leadership is a skill. It's not something we're just born with. And so my job and my area of the company is really to coach leaders and help them be the best versions of themselves. And a lot of my work with people one-on-one is what led to the book. So I had a previous career as one of the founding members of HGTV and helped grow that company and spent almost 20 years of my life there and over 20 years in the television industry, and then made a shift into consulting. So that kind of merger of my career path is what led to the book, What If There's More, that was just released a couple weeks ago. So.
Well, congratulations on the release of the book. I know how difficult that is, for sure.
Yes, you do.
You probably wrote it within a couple weeks, I'm sure.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was quite a process. And I think, you know, it was nice knowing you and knowing another author who had, you know, basically locked themselves away as well and really wrote. And so you were a great person to talk to, and you gave me a lot of great advice. So it was nice to have you go before me and be able to lean on you, especially when I was like, this is really, really, really hard.
So why did you put yourself through that torture? I mean, I probably explained to you how difficult it really was. It's super difficult.
Yeah. And I remember talking to you because you're like, you know, you can go a million routes. Like you can have somebody interview, you can have a ghostwriter, you can have all those things, but you're going to end up coming back and just writing it yourself. So just forget all that.
Yep.
And that was like so true. I wanted this to be my own story and my own experience. And I really had been thinking about the book for 10 years and thought of it, you know, after my 40th birthday. And I told Tom, like, I really want to write this book. I want to really think about, you know, this kind of crossroads, mid-career crossroads, and this long life we have ahead of us. You know, how do we live that? I feel like I've been going through the motions, everybody else's motions up to this point, you know, checking off all the boxes and going through all the predetermined mile markers. And now I want to know who I am, you know, who I am outside of HGTV. Who am I as a person now beyond just being like a mom or an executive or whatever? And then how can I take that purpose and that unique design and better, you know, impact the world around me? And I talked about it for about 10 years. And then after my 50th birthday, Tom was like, please stop talking about the book. Like, you need to just write the damn book. And so at his encouragement, and I was like, well, do you know what that's going to take? Like, it's going to take me scaling back on my clients. It's going to take me locking myself in a room. It's going to take me, you know, a lot of bitching and complaining. And he was like, it's fine. Like, you've been passionate about this. You've been wanting to write about this. You have so much more experience than you did when you were 40. You know, we've moved across the country. You've raised your children. You've done a ton of coaching, and now you have a lot of perspective. So go forth and lock yourself in that room and write. And so, you know, I give a lot of credit to him for being so supportive and letting me do that for, you know, the business sake and and as a business partner and as a life partner. So that was good.
So having finished the book now, how does it feel? Is it like a big weight off your shoulder? Does it feel like, oh, this is kind of cool, or or do I need to do it again? What's your feeling?
That's a great question. It's weird. I wonder if you felt this too. It's like after pub date, you kind of put it out into the universe, and it feels like, oh my gosh, like what, I don't even know what to feel. It's surreal. And, I've been getting a lot of great feedback and a lot of people relating to it, which was always my hope. It wasn't like, oh, I want to sell X amount of books. It was more like, is this going to touch like at least one person? Like, is one person going to relate? Is it going to help? Because I wrote the book I wish I had at those crossroads. And so my hope is that it's going to help other people at this kind of career crossroads, whether they want to change careers, whether they've been in a company for a long time and just want to fall back in love with what they're doing. I mean, I talk to a lot of business owners who, have created something fabulous, and sometimes it becomes stale to them because they don't understand what their place is now that they've scaled their company. And so this book, I hope, will help them kind of reconnect with their why and reconnect with who they are so that they can play a new and better and fresh role in their company, or maybe go ahead and follow that next dream and start the next company. So the feedback that I've been getting, I think, has been affirming, has made it all worth it. And now I think it's just continuing to get the message out there and promote the book, which is, to me, harder almost than writing it. I'm not one that's like, look at me, and I have sort of this like love-hate relationship with social media, and people are like, you got to get out there. And I'm like, really? It's hard. So that part's been awkward, to say the least. And, thank God for teenagers. We have a couple of them in our house, and they're like, Mom, give me the phone. And they'll like whip together, a reel or whatever. But I'm just like, gosh, I've never felt more energized and more old at the same time. I don't know how to do all this. So that's been an interesting journey.
So the book is talking about your second stage in your career, your life, which is pretty great, because we've got a lot of companies we work with that are at that point. They're selling their business, they've sold their business. I think we had 10 of them last year, and I think we've got 4 or 5 of them already this year that have sold. And so they're really going to that next stage of life, including yours truly. Yes. And with that, it's kind of nice, because it's kind of a guidebook on, hey, how to go from there. So if you could explain that, and that, why you decided to take that angle with it, because I think that angle is great. I've not read anything before in that regard.
Yeah. I think because I've been doing this process for years, Strategic Life Map, where I'm taking people through a 2-day super intense one-on-one process. We're going through. It is intense, and it is, but it's so transformative. And I mean, when do you get to take 2 days and pause and talk about yourself and figure out what you really want for the rest of your life? And I think that is so amazing. It's such an amazing gift that you can give to yourself, and the best investment you can make. And so I do have a lot of business owners that come at that crossroads, you included, that are like, okay, I built something great, and now I'm in this, new phase of life. What do I do? How do I take all of this? What direction do I put it in? How do I reimagine my future? And I help people process that and help them understand their unique talents and their core values and, all the things we do with companies. We're basically doing it for your life. And most leaders have been through some sort of strategic planning process for their company and realize the power of that, but they've never even thought for a second to use those same tools, on themselves. And so we do a great job of really looking at kind of what got you to where you are today. What are some of those, patterns that you've picked up along the way that you need to resolve? And, who are you today? And that's very different than who you were when you were 22, and then what do you want for the long road ahead, and really give you an action plan. And I I too had never read a book like this. There's so many books and coaches and people out there saying, live your best life, be the best version of yourself. And that's great. But most people I coach are like, I don't know what that means. Like, it sounds great, but what is the best version of me? What is my best life? And like, I want that because it sounds, all rainbows and sunshine, but how do I get there? And so I think that is something that's, definitely different about this book is I wanted to take that process because I'm only one person. I can't, facilitate a strategic life map for everybody, but how can I sort of share the philosophy of it and make it go a little bit deeper and wider? And so this is sort of, a much lighter version, but still gives you enough, questions and tools and things to answer where you can get with your journal and you can sit down and read the book and you can start to sketch out all the bits and pieces that you need to craft and reimagine your future.
Yeah. So when I was reading the book, what I really thought was great was that you told a lot of personal stories and you told a lot about your life. And I first wonder, was that a hard decision for you to do? Was that a hard part of the writing process? And then second, like, I think it was necessary. I think if that wasn't in there, the book wouldn't have been nearly what it was. And so I'm kind of curious about the process of that and then the decision to make sure that you had to put that in there.
Yeah. That came from a lot of encouragement of people that I was sharing my early chapters with. And I have a good friend who, is also an editor, and she, read some of it and she was like, what would really help is if you told a little bit more of your own personal journey. And, there were, I knew what she was saying was true because the books I relate to the most and the people that I relate to the most are the ones who just, give the real. And so, there are some things in the book that have never been comfortable talking about. Like, I talk a lot about my health journey and my struggle with rheumatoid arthritis. And that has never been something that I've been comfortable with. But one of the things I talk about in the book is why I've never been comfortable, like, and how I don't want to be seen as weak or I don't want pity. And, that's part of what I struggle with as an overachiever and trying to, to alter my path and to be successful. And that pursuit of success can often cause us to push things down, that we don't want people to see. And, so to go from not ever telling anybody, except for my family, that I had rheumatoid, to writing it in a book and just sort of sending it out into the universe was a really hard thing. And I talk about quite a few other personal stories that also were things that not super, comfortable talking about, but I knew that other people could relate. And, there's one story I talk about flying. I talk about postpartum, depression and a friend of mine, also from the television industry, she sent me a text the other day where she circled, on her Kindle, she circled a passage and she just put an arrow and said, "Me too." And I think that was the affirmation. That was the moment where I was like, oh my gosh, putting it out there and saying it was exactly what I needed to do. And if I really want this book to matter and hit home with people.
And like you said, I mean, when you're talking about what you do for other people, you said it's kind of therapeutic. And when do people actually have time to sit down and talk about themselves and evaluate themselves for even 2 days? And I'm sure this book process was a lot longer than 2 days. So did you find it therapeutic to kind of put it on paper and really just like think about it a different way?
Yeah, I did. And, we were talking earlier about recording the audiobook, and there was a section in the book when I was reading, I actually had to take a pause because I got choked up, like rereading and going back to that moment in my life. And what was interesting is like, I cried when I wrote it. And then I cried when I read it. And then, and I think that's therapy. Crying is great. Feeling those emotions and purging those emotions and going there is necessary. And so, yeah, there was a lot of therapeutic, experience for me in writing this book.
Yeah, I think it's funny. You know, I try to journal some, and it's always been hard, but I try to encourage it with my kids. And my 15-year-old daughter, I remember when she was young, and I was trying to encourage her to journal. Like it was always hard for her because she was always like thinking it had to be like an Anne Frank published book, and that's kind of what you did, right? Like you actually journaled and like made it to the point where it was publishable. So I'm like, maybe I do need to encourage her to make it more more publishable because it had to be helpful. So
yeah, it's always better to write about something you're passionate about, I think. And I used to say that about sales too. Like even with HGTV, it was like I'd get other offers to go to other networks or, and I was like, gosh, I'm not good at, representing a brand I don't believe in. I'm not good at representing a process I don't believe in, or, or writing about something I'm not passionate about. I don't think I can do that. And so I really found that when you are passionate about it and you believe in the message and the mission of it, just like we do with our companies, that it comes so much easier. And so that's why I'm so passionate about helping leaders find that sweet spot for themselves, because things fall into place. I mean, forget about just trying to be successful for the sake of money, title, power, because if that's your pursuit, it's going to be a long, hard slog. And there's always going to be somebody outdoing you, always. And so if you shift that, as I say in the book, to more of a pursuit of significance, and you find that sweet spot and you really lean into how you can positively impact people in a unique way that's unique to you, then all of a sudden it just becomes easier. It's like it sets you free,
Yeah, for me, I mean, and I'd like to kind of get your input on this, is that the first half of my life, I guess, I feel no regrets. Everything it really hit the high point for me. What do I have to look forward to? How's the second half of my life now that I'm kind of in that second half part? How, is there something out there for me as successful as that, or does it kind of go downhill from there?
Well, that's a great question, because that's the same question, that I asked myself, because I was like at the crossroads, and Tom used to always challenge me in saying this, but I would say, well, I've already had a wildly successful career. I already had a really powerful job. Like nothing's going to get better than HGTV. That nothing I say to people is going to sound more impressive. I got to build a company from a little teeny tiny fledgling idea to like $1 billion media company. Empire. I don't think that's going to happen to me again,
Right.
Maybe, but probably not. So, so you think, well, I did it, it's all downhill from here. And I think, for you, it's like, you can say, well, maybe I'll go hit the golf course or whatever, but you're a healthy, young, smart person with a lot to give the world. So
Can you
why
say
would
that
you
again?
want to?
Oh, geez. Traci, you know better than that. Come on. You're not
now
talking to
I
Jody.
see how this will be promoted.
You're talking to the listeners. You're not talking to Jody specifically. You're talking to the listeners. All right.
Well, imagine you are this, this wildly successful, smart person. What do you do with the rest of your life? And I think, that's where we have to shift and say, where's the meaning in it all? Right. I don't think that success as society defines it is really the end all be all. So what is the end all be all? Like, why are we here? Why are we uniquely designed? And I believe that you're as unique on the inside as your fingerprint on the outside. So what do you do with all that and all the wisdom you've gained and everything you've learned? And what I'm realizing in this kind of next iteration of my life with Navigate the Journey and with the book is that my impact now is going to be broader and deeper, and to me more significant, not to discredit anything I've done in the past, but it feels more rich and present. And so that to me, when I'm, laying on my deathbed is probably what I'm going to smile back most on. And for you as well, as we talked about in your strategic life map is when we pull it all together and we see what all your gifting is and your uniqueness and all the different options of how you can parlay that in the world. I mean, we had a super fun time brainstorming all the different ideas. And it started to me, I started to see like, oh my gosh, like actually your reach could be broader and deeper than anything you've done up to this point. And I think to me, that's so inspiring. And to me, you know, that is more inspiring than hitting the golf course. That makes you want to live longer and like makes you want to be healthier, and it makes you want to, you know, so, you know, all the wonderful things you've built up to here, you should feel proud of. You should celebrate. You should say, damn, I did a great job. But that's not the end. There's more to come. And that's super exciting.
Yep, I agree. I'll be playing that one back and back.
The company meeting. Rewind.
Exactly.
Everybody, we're going to introduce our next speaker, Traci, and this is what she had to say about me.
Now back to me.
So I told you this before we started recording, but no, I read the book and I read it pretty quickly, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to read that again. And I think part of the reason I'm going to need to read it again is because, you know, you have throughout the book, you have reflection points and you have questions that come with those reflection points. Can you talk a little bit about that and like kind of the strategy for reading this book? And again, I don't think this is like a 2-day read, and that's not the purpose of the book, but I'm just kind of curious your thought on that.
Yeah, I knew when I was writing it that people were going to need those questions. I knew that I was bringing up so many things that you would need a place and a way to process what you were reading. And so my hope was to just, you know, it's not extensive, but there's enough questions at the end of each chapter for you to sit with a journal and sketch it out. Another thing I did was on the book website, tracisuperbarrett.com, you will find a book guide. So it's free, you can download it. I put all the questions together in one PDF. And so you can do a book club and you can do, you know, one chapter a week and get everybody together, because I do think there's something powerful in sharing that with each other. So there's lots of options to, you know, to take the book and really start sketching this out for yourself. And I'm hoping, you know, I thought about each question, and I'm hoping that some of them are just springboards to more things that are going to come to you, because, you know, the book is, you know, partly a process, but all the discovery you hold within yourself, you know, and it's inside and it's there, and you just need to mine for it. And so, you know, I'm super excited for people to, you know, let me know, you know, how the process was for them. And if they want more, you know, I'm going to be having a course that's going to be coming out, you know, where you can go deeper, you know, and then of course you can come to me if you want to do the full Mac Daddy 2-day process as well. But I want to just, you know, keep giving resources and keep putting things out there for people that they can consume to really, you know, keep this process going and to keep the momentum going in their life. So that's my hope, is to just keep producing materials that will help people.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely ready to further digest the book, because like I said, I got through it and read a lot, and a lot racing through my mind as I'm reading it, but I'm excited to get a lot of it on paper. So, all right, we're gonna turn the page here a little bit, and at the end of most of our podcasts recently, we've been just throwing a random question out there to change the topic. So today, the question is going to be, so I don't know if everybody knows this, but Traci lives down in Nashville, and Jody and I have been to Nashville several times, and I'm always amazed by the music down there. You walk into any bar, and some guy can go from playing Madonna to Nirvana in one set, and it's crazy the amount of talent down there. So we're gonna everybody's gonna talk about real quick who your favorite musician is and maybe a memory from that musician. So I'll start with you, Traci.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yes, everything you said is so true about Nashville, and I feel the pressure that I'm supposed to be saying somebody that is like country music or something. I will give a shout out to Dolly Parton, because she has the opening quote in my book, and she is amazing. And she embodies everything I talk about in the book, about just not stopping, about you can live this long life and you don't have to hang up your hat if you don't want to. And I think that, she really has a positive way of looking at things, and in a divisive culture, she just kind of rises above it and was like, no, y'all, we're not gonna, this is the way it needs to be. And she's about love. And I don't know, I just have the more I've gotten to know her, and it has been since I've moved down here that I've become more aware of her. And she actually just lives like about 5 minutes down the road from me. Although I have not run into her at the grocery
so you have coffee
store
with
yet.
Her?
Yeah, I would, Dolly, if you're listening to this, I'll be right over. So I'm going to give a shout out to her because, she's Dolly. What's not to love?
Awesome. That's a great answer. All right, Jody, see if you can top that.
Oh, I can't top it, but the song would be "Pour Some Sugar on Me" by Def Leppard. Def Leppard, by far my favorite rock band, by far. I've seen them 5, 6, 7 times, a lot of different times. Love them. I can't get their songs out of my head. It's great, but like I said, I love all kinds of music, from country. Actually, I'm listening to classical behind me as we speak right now. So, from everything, jazz, you name it. I just love music itself. Now, the funny thing about it was I can't name artists very well, and I can't name song titles, and I have no clue what the words in the song. So with that would be.
So you're not singing, you're just mumbling.
You would not know. The words coming out of my mouth are definitely not the lyrics.
That is awesome.
That is amazing. So my answer is Pearl Jam. So I grew up a huge Pearl Jam fan, and that's actually kind of what the bond that connected my wife and I. So we're high school sweethearts, and we started dating in high school. And once we were old enough to drive, like, finding rare records and rare CDs was kind of our thing. And so she was a huge Tori Amos fan, and I was a huge Pearl Jam fan. And so we would just drive up to Denver and go to all the music stores and try to find rare bootlegs. And that was really our thing. And then the concerts, I think probably the first 12 concerts I went to were either Tori Amos or Pearl Jam. So like, I thought that's how every concert was, because the way they play music is every show is different. Like, there's no show that's the same. And then I went and saw, I'm not going to name the band, not like they're going to listen or anything, but I went and saw a couple bands a year later when I was in college, and I saw them twice, and the shows were the exact same. And I'm like, wait, why did they do that? Like, I didn't realize that's how most bands did it. Is they like played the same set list every single night. So I had a great childhood listening to Pearl Jam and Amos in there as well. So that's my favorite band.
Right. I like that. I'm going to say a little bit better than Def Leppard. I'm more of an Eddie Vedder fan. I love his solo work too. Like, he's amazing.
I tried to get Jody to come see Pearl Jam with me last year, and he had a conflict. But one of these days, Jody's going to find out about real music. Real live music.
Real live music. Yeah,
real live music.
You can mumble to anything, Jody.
Yeah,
that's right, exactly. And everybody thinks I know the words.
All right. So with that, let's get to our final thought. So kind of final thought for our listeners. And again, obviously, both Jody and I read the book and had different experiences with it, but would definitely recommend it for anyone that's listening. But I'm going to give both you guys a final thought for our listeners. So let's start with you, Traci.
Final thought. I'll leave it in the words of Dolly Parton. If you don't like the road you're walking, pave a new one. And if you really want to pave a new one, then, get the book, go through the process. I really, really believe in it. I believe in the message. And, we only have one life to live. So it's time to lean in and really live it well.
Great. Jody?
I have no quotes. But I will tell you that doing the 2-day life plan, I think was a game changer for both my wife and myself. Sitting down there, kind of figuring out what do we do in the next stages of our lives? Because at that point, I was contemplating selling our business, and what do I do? Do I stay on? Do I continue on? Do I stay on for 5 years, 10 years? What is the game plan there? And for my wife, it's like, because I do a lot of traveling, it's like, well, she doesn't get to partake in that traveling, so we're apart a lot, and she has her own business, and so what does she do with that? And from that is pretty much we changed the way that we were doing our life. She ended up selling her business, and she's going to to be, more of a mom, and then eventually a grandmother, and then, go with me to the different events and be a supporting wife, type of thing. And so it really has been a game changer. And it was kind of fun reading this book back here. It was kind of funny because there's a lot of things I thought she was saying for the first time she actually said verbatim in the book. I was like, oh, that sounded familiar.
Yep.
No, but the book was great because it brought everything back that we had discussed and talked about, and it went through. And so it was definitely a really nice refresher. And I think what Traci was going to say and hadn't said yet, but the course is one, going through a 2-day plan is one thing, reading a book is another thing, but I think it's a continuous planning session. It's not, you put everything together and everything is going to be perfect from then on. I think it's more of a revisit once a year, revisit once. I'm sure she could probably tell you better and how frequently, but I think it's just a constant revisit of that plan. Super important.
Yeah, it's a living, breathing, document. And, you're making a map of your life, but life can be unpredictable. And so then we have to alter the route of the map, but the basics of it, stay the same. And that's the value in it, is that you have set the course, set the vision, and what your final destination, what you want it to be, and what your legacy you want it to be, and everything just kind of spills out of that. So yeah, you're continually refreshing and looking at it, at least annually, but it is this living, breathing thing that just becomes part of who you are, and that's kind of the beautiful magic of it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree, and I think that's my final thoughts. Is like it was a fun read for me. I've read a lot of books. I've read a lot of sports books. I've read a lot of business books. I've read a lot of books just for fun, and I do read a lot of, I don't know, I guess you want to call them self-help books, but just like self-improvement books. And I'd say this one made me think and made me reflect more than a lot of books I've ever read, and that's what made it a lot of fun. Was it wasn't just the words on paper, but it's the thoughts that came with the words on paper. Like, oh, I ever thought about that, or I should highlight that and think about that later. So it was a really fun read, and I would definitely encourage anyone listening to this to pick up the book and go through the journey, because it was a great time. So appreciate both you guys coming on the show, and thanks again.
Traci, real quick, where can we get the book and find out more about you?
Yeah, well, you can get the book anywhere. I know most people go to Amazon. It's there. So that's the easy, and it's all forms. You can get hardcover, paperback, Audible, Kindle, all the versions. And to find more specifically about the book, go to TraciSchubertBarrett.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Traci S. Barrett. To find out more about Navigate the Journey is just navigatethejourney.com. So those are all the places.
You can follow you on Instagram so we can see all the stories your kids are posting for you. So that's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, it's well worth it.
You gave away your secret.
Yes, I know.
All right. Well, thanks a ton. Thanks both you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, you. Traci. I had a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
It was fun.
Enjoy this podcast? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving business success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.